And it's not a shot at the Eagles because the Eagles handle business. That part of it is certainly a positive. I mean, they dominated. So you can only play who's put in front of you. Who's put in front of them is the worst team, and they dominated. So they deserve credit for that. But
win. Without further ado, let's talk to our man all the way from Detroit Rock City. Fun fact, city where I got engaged. Romance capital of the world. Who knew? Presented by Mesa. Yeah, right. Presented by Mesa Law and Associates. Need a tough injury lawyer? Call Mesa and Associates. He brings us John McMullen each and every week. Johnny Mac, what's happening, sir?
Not much. You're right. I was expecting to hear Detroit Rock City from Kiss, but we hear that. We heard some other stuff, but not Detroit Rock City.
It's got to be a good vibe in the locker room, flower conversation and all in the Eagles press conferences following this 44-6 win over the Detroit Lions. What was the overall conversation point from our good friend Nick Sirianni?
Well, I think the overall point was the Lions' offense was, I guess, the water. The defense was the fertilizer. I guess to throw the special teams, Dave Fippless special teams, maybe that was the sunlight. But yeah, no. I mean, look, a lot of these coaches and players specifically had a big problem with the way everybody attacked Nick Sirianni with the flower thing. And they really came out, I think, and proved some things for the head coach because they were upset by the way that was spun last week.
Hey, John. I saw Lane Johnson on the Fox pregame show while I was doing a pregame show for 97.5, and I know he talked to Jay Glazer about his mental health. I understand Lane also spoke after the game today. What did he talk about?
Yeah, he did. Lane kind of went in depth after, for the first time since he got back. He spoke to us and he let us know this is something he's been dealing with for a very long time. He said it started in junior college, even before Oklahoma. He's been dealing with it for whatever reason, tried to wean himself off the medication that he was on. Said maybe he thought it was a crutch and wasn't feeling good about himself by trying to get through it that way. And he had withdrawal symptoms, and that's kind of when he was forced to leave the team and drive back to Oklahoma. And, yeah, I mean, I think all of us that have been around for 9 years, I think it is now, that Lane Johnson's been in Philadelphia. I mean, this is a guy with a big personality. He's always laughing, always having fun. And you don't think about a guy like that having social anxiety, having depression. But, you know, he brings up Brandon Brooks, who's his best friend on this team. And if you go back to when Brandon really was at the height of his problem, and he was throwing up before games, and Lane said he was right there with him, 5:30 in the morning, and just kept it bottled up from people, from most people. And obviously it hit a breaking point. But now you see Calvin Ridley walked away from the Falcons for a little bit today. So it's something that people are taking more seriously, and it's certainly a good thing. From the Eagles' perspective, they're thrilled to have him back on the field. And you saw today sort of that offensive line was kind of the story of the game and how they were able to run the football. So 1980 Philadelphia is thrilled today.
John, I want to go back to the fertilizer flower speech because I know we've all had our fun with that. You know, it's Halloween weekend. Couldn't have been better timing for people needing a costume. But it worked. And I remember I saw a post from you earlier this week after that speech came out where you kind of said, the speech wasn't, you know, as delicate and weird, I guess, as it sounded in the press conference. It actually got the players fired up. And you mentioned the players had Sirianni's back. Can you expand on that a bit?
Yeah, they really did. I think, you know, it's funny, but a couple well-placed F-bombs can turn anything into a more hardened conversation. So I was talking to a couple players, and they had saw how people kind of spun it, and they were telling me that, he's saying F and, F and this, F and that. And they said they left the meeting room so fired up. They wanted to run through a wall, the old cliche in football for Nick Sirianni. So, yeah, it went over completely different behind doors in the team meeting. And that's what a bunch of the guys said today. And Nick Sirianni kind of echoed this game was about Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and how much the intensity was ramped up. And I think in some ways the people that made fun of it kind of fueled that at least a little bit. So maybe they helped the Eagles even though they didn't think they were helping the Eagles.
It worked.
Yeah, John. I said earlier, if Nick Sirianni talking about daisies and whatever, if that's what is the new dog mask, whatever gets it done for you, man. Whatever gets it done for you. And we had questioned this a little bit earlier in the show, as a matter of fact. So when you say this, it's very interesting. The fact that you could have something, the weirdest thing, possibly motivate a locker room and maybe bring a team together. Look, there's been coaches, and the guy that I always think about, and I'm not saying Nick Sirianni is this guy, but I'm a huge fan of that 1980. I mean, who is it? 1980 Olympic hockey team, and you just happen to reference the year 1980 a second ago. But Herb Brooks knew that he had to be the bad guy to make everybody else come together. Maybe Nick Sirianni, in order with this young team to grow, maybe he's the young, inexperienced guy that has to take all the shots so that this young team, especially Jalen Hurts, can be a guy growing into his own as an NFL quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I go back to the Super Bowl season, and everybody embraced the underdog mask. And I was joking, we all knew at the time the Eagles were the best team in football. That whole underdog thing only unfolded because of Carson Wentz's injury.
Yeah.
If Carson doesn't get hurt, they're favored in every game. They're the favorite to go to the Super Bowl. So in a lot of ways, it was hooey. They weren't really underdogs. We knew they were a really good team. But there were questions around Nick Foles, and everybody knew that. And the team used it. And I said, Doug Peterson would constantly use the media versus, look, this is what we're saying. This is what they're saying about you. And if it works, use it. It doesn't matter if it's true or not. If it works, just use it.
John, do you think this team will stay committed to running the football, or is it too early to tell? I know. See, he cut me off.
No.
See, I had to ask him because I already knew what he was going to say. He thinks like I think in terms of don't get too jacked up about what you saw today because it could be an illusion. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, well, number one, I mean, we talk after every game, and most games this year, the Eagles have been behind by more than one score.
Right.
Today they got ahead early, and it was a blowout early, and all they had to do was turn around and run the football. So, for people who are saying they won because they ran the football, well, it was part of it. It was certainly part of it early, and they didn't throw the football much at all. So there's no doubt that it played a heavy part in it. But you see the run-pass ratio drastically slanted towards the run today because they were so far ahead. So they were just turning around and running the football in the second half. Obviously, as you get ramped up in competition, let's face it, every game the rest of the season is ramped up competition because this is the worst team in football. I guess you could argue the Houston Texans. Maybe the Lions and Texans should play each other for relegation. We should go to English Premier Soccer rules because they are terrible. And it starts next week with the Chargers. Well, if you run the ball, I forget what it ended. I know late in the game it was 45-16, but whatever it ended at, if you try to run the ball 45 times against the Chargers and only throw it 16 times, you're going to get smacked. That's not the modern NFL. And Justin Herbert's going to be on the other side next week.
John, going into this game, there wasn't, officially a lot at stake, but a lot of people were speculating that had we lost this game, it wouldn't have ended well for either Howie Roseman, coaches, Jalen Hurts, players before the trade deadline. Do you think this win has changed any of that?
No, but not in the way you're saying, Devin. I don't think it was. I mean, no coach was getting fired if they lost this game. I mean, it would have been horrible for the coaching staff. It would have been horrible for the organization to go through the next week if they lost to a winless team. But I mean, Jeffrey Lurie has shown patience. He's not the type of guy who's going to fire coaches midseason. It doesn't accomplish much. And he understands there's got to be some kind of curve when it comes to the growing process. So I think a little of that was overstated. Obviously, Howie wasn't getting fired midseason. And then, maybe it would have made them listen to a few more phone calls when it comes to Tuesday and the trade deadline. But, the NFL as a whole, they've already traded 2 players. It's not baseball. It's not basketball. It's not hockey where you have significant movement. Mm-hmm. There's only a certain number of players that can go and be traded. Guys like Fletcher Cox. I mean, yeah, people are calling trying to lowball the Eagles because he's unhappy, but they're not going to give him away for a late day 3 pick. So I think it would have changed the trade deadline a little bit, but not from, firing coaches or firing the GM. That just wasn't going to happen.
As far as I think we all understand you're not going to run the ball 46 times again against the Chargers. However, do you think we'll see a little bit of maybe Boston Scott sprinkled in from this point on? All but for just the fact that you have a lack of options right now at the running back position with Miles Sanders being out there. Do you think we'll see Boston Scott run the ball a little bit more for this team? Same thing with Jordan Howard. Will we take anything that we saw from this particular game and apply it for the rest of the season?
Yeah, I think the one thing I kept hearing today that was a little bit wrong was that, Kenny Gainwell had fallen behind Boston Scott and Jordan Howard because of the fumble. But really, it was in-game. Miles' injury in-game versus having a week to prepare. So they want Kenny to stay in that role, to be the third down back, to be the hurry-up back. Now, until late in this game, he didn't get much playing time because, again, just like we said with the running game, they were ahead by 2 scores. So you don't have to play. They're ahead by more than 2 scores. So you don't have to play hurry up. You don't have to play a lot of third down. We got to pass the ball. So it was just natural that Boston Scott and Jordan Howard got more time early in the game, and then they went to Kenny a little bit later in the game. They're going to be the running back ones, so to speak, and it's going to be Boston and Jordan Howard mixed in, and then Kenny's going to have his role. So if you tell me how the game is going to go next week, are they going to be behind 10 points? Then Kenny Gainwell is going to be in there. Are they going to be ahead 10 points? And Boston Scott's going to be in there.
Hey, John, how did Sirianni break down what they were able to do today? A lot of people have criticized Sirianni for the way he avoids answering questions directly. Now, obviously, this was a feel-good moment, very positive situation for this team. How did he handle how he answered a lot of why he had a good measure of success in this particular game?
Well, I think he did go in realizing, and in fact, he said, his scripted plays, he calls them openers. 5 of the first 7 plays were design run calls, and he wanted that because he saw something in Detroit where he thought they could run the football effectively. It turned out to be true. I think you probably could have passed the ball effectively as well. But, maybe that's not true. And maybe, the biggest thing, and I talked to a couple other reporters, and I said to myself, I don't know how much I learned from this game just because how bad Detroit is. And it's not a shot at the Eagles because the Eagles handle business. That part of it is certainly a positive. I mean, they dominated. So you can only play who's put in front of you. Who's put in front of them is the worst team, and they dominated. So they deserve credit for that. But I do sit and I look at Jalen Hurts and I see, 14 throws or whatever it was not effective throwing the football. Some of the same things you've seen that have been themes throughout the season, maybe a little hesitant to pull the trigger when something is there. When he does pull the trigger, it's a little bit late than it should be. Didn't help Devontae Smith drop the pass early again. which is becoming a theme. Dallas Goedert, though, was great. I mean, Dallas Goedert was the entire passing game. Again, they didn't need it, but the only reason I bring it up is it's the one concern. You're going to need the passing game in the NFL. You just are.
Yeah, you mentioned Jalen Hurts, and this question is almost half on behalf of the viewers in the comments, because I've seen a lot of people comment on Jalen Hurts, not looking too happy, him maybe not playing well. What was his vibe in the post-game presser? I know he's been pretty down on himself, especially after last week. Was he happy with his performance and the team's performance today?
No, I think Jalen, I mean, the one thing I've said pretty consistently about Jalen is how even-keeled he is. And, that's the case in bad games, good games. And, he was asked about only throwing it a few times, 14 times. And he said he goes right back to the win. I'm excited to get a win. Now, that's cliche, and we all know, but it has been Jalen Hurts. It's not like he deviates from that at any point. So, the few times the Eagles have been clicking from a passing perspective, he's had the same mentality, and he's expressed the same sentiment. So I don't worry about Jalen Hurts as far as being happy or being unhappy. He understood what was going on today, and that was they were just really, really effective running the ball. And that included him, by the way. He did a tremendous job, as he usually does, scrambling and getting big plays that way. And the Eagles had 3 runners over 50 yards. It's the third time in, I think, 30 years that they've been able to do that. So they didn't have to pass the ball today. So I don't think it's a concern from Jalen Hurts' standpoint. The only reason I brought it up is because, look, 24-hour rule, this game's over. Now you got to start thinking about the Chargers.
That's right.
The Chargers, you're going to have to throw the ball to beat them.
Absolutely. Before that Chargers game, NFL trade deadline on Tuesday, 4 p.m. You mentioned Fletcher Cox. His name has been out there. The Eagles are getting calls for him. Not a big surprise there. Andre Dillard's name has been brought up. What do you think the Eagles do prior to the 4 p.m. trade deadline on Tuesday?
Because remember, as I said, they already traded 2 players. So in a lot of ways, the trade deadline has already started for the Eagles. Look, I think if somebody calls up Howie Roseman and offers a day 2 pick for Andre Dillard, I think he's got to seriously listen to it. If it's day 3, though, I don't think he's going to take it. It's not worth it, especially with Lane's issues, not only what we were just talking about, but also his ankle issues, which are still, he downplayed them today, but he's mentioned in the past he's had some swelling and continues to have some issues there. So you start thinking, well, maybe we need Andre Dillard, and Fletcher Cox is the same way. People are trying to get a discount, saying, okay, he's not happy. Maybe the Eagles will give him up for nothing, and they're not going to do that. So there's, the win helps. I thought Steve Nelson was a guy because he's having a good year. He doesn't make a lot of money. He's a veteran corner. There's a lot of contenders in this league that need veteran corners. If they lost this game, I thought he'd maybe be a guy. Look, he's not going to be here next year, so get something for him. But they won the game. So that's the kind of guy who I think a loss could have affected, and maybe they moved in a more aggressive direction to move him, but now that's out the window.
What about Eric Wilson, who was a healthy scratch today?
Well, Devin, you could get more from me than Eric Wilson right now.
We'd be selling high, John. I mean, with you, we'd be selling high, my friend.
Eric got benched today, obviously, so that's not the best way to say to the rest of the league, hey, come give us something for Eric Wilson. Now, maybe somebody gives you a conditional 7th-round pick, and obviously he doesn't have much of a future here, so I'm not going to say nothing could happen, but they're certainly not going to get much back for him.
John McMullen, when was the last time you wore a Halloween costume?
Oof.
And what was it? Who was it?
Mark, wow. I think I would have to go back to college, and it would be one of those stupid, get 15 seconds thought to it. So it was probably a football coach. I can't even remember.
Really? You can't remember one Halloween costume?
It's been a while, Mark. I haven't dressed up for Halloween.
So you weren't one of the people who dressed up as Nick Sirianni with a bag of fertilizer?
No. I would have meant more. Did you say Ted Lasso, Devin? Everybody's dressing up as Ted Lasso, but I would have went more, Nathan or the angry Roy Kent. I would have went Roy
Kent. Yeah, Roy's easy because you just wear all black. I did a Ted Lasso costume. We talked about it earlier in the show. I was Rebecca, so I didn't know that you watched. I'm glad that you know. D-Gun doesn't have a clue.
Great show.
I have no idea.
Great show.
Great show.
I need a John McMullen Roy Kent. I need that. I need that image. I need that photo. Maybe as your next, I don't know, Twitter profile there, John. I think that would just make everybody's day.
You tend to get the angry, at least some of the time.
Right. One thing we didn't get into enough with you, Jonathan Gannon after the game. I know the defensive coordinator doesn't speak, but defensive players, the defense certainly seemed a lot more aggressive today.
Yeah, they were. The key, and that's why I said, how much did you really learn from this game? And we're going to have to just, have to put an asterisk next to this game and look at next week and say, is it real, or did they only get aggressive because they know Detroit has no receivers? Right. They know Detroit can't hurt them down the field. And they had the ability to be more aggressive. Now, next week's quarterback, again, we've mentioned him a couple times. He can gas you down the field. So, if Jonathan Gannon shows up next week and the safeties are in South Jersey playing, across the wall at Whitman, it doesn't mean anything. If he said we got to get more aggressive, then maybe they not only learned something from this game, but they took something out of this game and they have a little bit more confidence.
Any updates on any of the injuries? Jack Driscoll, Jalen Reagor, anything like that?
No, not yet. But it's one of the things where Jack and Jalen were ruled out pretty early after they were injured. We'll have to keep an eye on that Wednesday because, again, they didn't need them. So I think they were more susceptible to say, all right, let's not push this because we're going to win this game easily. Right. So I don't think necessarily that's entirely negative like it might be in a typical game, but certainly you have to be watchful of that on Wednesday. Jalen Reagor got involved early in this game on those manufactured touches and was pretty effective. Yep. And that's something they could add to this offense and be helpful. But obviously, if he's not available, you got to scratch that off. And Jack Driscoll's been probably one of the more underrated players on this team. He's taken a real big positive step forward this year.
Absolutely. John, always a pleasure catching up with you. Next time we talk, we'll maybe remember your favorite Halloween costume from a kid. And lastly, Reese's or Snickers?
Snickers.
You're damn right. Ooh. Yeah, you're damn right. Ooh. That's right. I knew you and I were buds. I knew. The piping hot takes. We're a divided show, folks. We're a divided show. John McMullen, thanks so much for joining us on live post-game show as per usual. And safe travels coming back to Philadelphia, man.
All right. Thank you.
Appreciate you, John McMullen. Look at that. So John and I go Snickers, and then you two are Reese's people. Look at this.
Yeah, always.
Yeah. Let me tell you something. Yeah. I love Snickers, but when it comes to the candy world, Reese's is like lobster, filet mignon of the candy world. There's Reese's, and then there's everybody else. There's Baby Ruth, Mr. Goodbar, Snickers. What you call it? It just trickles down from there. But Reese's is like the god of candies. When you hold up a Reese's to the sky, a beam of light, trickles down from the heavens.
Oh, is that what happens?
It's definitely the most unifying candy. My Halloween candy hot take is that Almond Joys are actually really good.
Almond Joys.
They get a lot of hate.
Oh, yes.
So good.
Yes,
so
Almond
good.
Joys.
Oh my
Yes,
We
God!
I'll
have
enjoy
the
it.
same taste. We need to do Halloween together
Wow.
next year.
Matter of fact, I'm going to have some almond joys and Reese's downstairs when I'm done. You go along with the barbecue, of course. That'll be my dessert.
I wouldn't put it past you to grill a Reese's cup just because I know you.
Let me think about that.
When we come back, yes. By the way, for all the people in the comments, yes,
happen.
we do have Devin's Halloween costume. We will be showing you guys from Ted Lasso, so we'll get to that. Also, if you guys are liking us or you guys are watching us on the YouTube channel, make sure you. I gotta speak the language. So you guys just make sure that you hit the like button, smash that like button on the YouTube channel for JAKIB Media. And if you're watching us on 6ABC, just give us a wave. That's all we got right there. When we come back, we got more live post-game show. And let's not forget that this fine program is brought to you by the great people of Ocean Casino Resort. Go for the live show. Go for the win. More live post-game show when we return.